The warning signals came through space like whispers in the dark. Admiral Kex then watched the data streams flow across his command screen aboard the massive Zephyrian warship. The automated beacon network had been sending the same message for centuries. Most galactic civilizations had learned to ignore these old transmissions. "Sir, we are receiving another warning beacon," reported Lieutenant Vashital from her station. Her forearms moved quickly across the control panels. "The same message about a quarantined sector." Kexton's scaled face showed no concern. His people had conquered 3 sectors in the past year alone. The Zephyrian Empire was the strongest force in this part of the galaxy. No primitive species could threaten their advanced fleet. "What does it say this time?" he asked, though he already knew. "Warning. Restricted territory ahead. Do not engage the species known as humans. Extreme territorial aggression detected. Unpredictable warfare tactics confirmed. Maintain safe distance of 50 light-years minimum." The bridge crew laughed. 50 light-years from a single star system? The idea seemed ridiculous. Kexthon had seen the intelligence reports about Earth. The humans had barely reached their own moon a few centuries ago. They were still trapped in one solar system while the Zephyrians controlled hundreds of worlds. "Sir, the beacon is very old," said Science Officer Mordek. "The technology appears to be from the ancients. Perhaps 10,000 years old or more." "Exactly," Kexthon replied. "This warning is older than most civilizations. Whatever species created these beacons is long dead. They probably feared humans because they had never seen advanced technology before." The Admiral pulled up star charts on his personal display. The Sol system looked perfect for their needs. It sat right along their planned route to the next conquest. The system had a decent star, several planets that could be mined, and enough space for the fleet to refuel and resupply. "Besides," he continued, "look at their current technology level. We have reports from deep space monitors. They have some basic space stations and a few small ships. Nothing that could threaten even one of our destroyers." The Zephyrian fleet was massive. 200 ships of various sizes filled the space around the flagship. Each ship carried enough firepower to destroy a planet. Their shields could stop anything short of a supernova. Their weapons could punch through solid rock from orbit. "The humans call their system Sol," reported Navigator Krillvex. "They have 9 planets, though one was recently reclassified as something called a dwarf planet. The 3rd planet from their star is where they originated. They call it Earth." "How many humans live in their system?" asked Kexthon. "Approximately 12 billion on the home planet. Perhaps another few million scattered across various space installations throughout their system. Very small numbers compared to our conquered territories." Kexthon nodded. The numbers made sense. A primitive species trapped in one system would have limited population growth. They probably had not even learned how to build proper space habitats yet. "What about their military?" he asked. "Basic, sir. We have detected some armed vessels, but nothing larger than our scout ships. Their weapons appear to be simple projectile systems and basic energy beams. No shields detected on any of their vessels." The Admiral stood up from his command chair. His massive form cast a shadow across the bridge. Like all Zephyrians, he stood over 8 feet tall with thick scales and powerful muscles. His people had evolved as apex predators on a harsh world. War came naturally to them. "This will be easier than our last 3 conquests," he announced to the bridge crew. "Set course for the Sol system. We will use it as a refueling point before continuing to our next target." "Sir, should we send scouts ahead?" asked Lieutenant Vashital. "No need. We will approach as a full fleet. Let the humans see our power. Perhaps they will surrender without a fight and save us all some time." The massive Zephyrian fleet began to move. 200 ships arranged themselves in a standard attack formation. The flagship led the way, followed by heavy cruisers, destroyers, and support vessels. They would arrive at Earth system in less than a week. As they traveled through hyperspace, more warning beacons activated. Each one sent the same message about staying away from human territory. The Zephyrian crew began to joke about it. Some wondered if the humans had built the beacons themselves to scare away visitors. "Perhaps they are trying to seem dangerous," laughed Weapons Officer Torgal. "A species with no real military might try such tricks." "The beacons are too old and too advanced for that," replied Science Officer Mordek. "But I agree the warnings seem excessive for such a primitive species." Admiral Kexton studied intelligence reports about human culture. They seemed to be a violent species that fought among themselves frequently, but internal conflicts were different from organized military campaigns. Most primitive species collapse quickly when faced with superior technology. Their largest conflicts involved only a few million soldiers, he read aloud, and they fought with chemical explosives and metal projectiles. Even their most advanced weapons are centuries behind our basic equipment. The fleet continued toward Sol system. Each day brought more automated warnings. The beacons seemed to form a network around human space, all broadcasting the same message about territorial aggression and unpredictable tactics. Sir, we are now detecting over 100 warning beacons, reported Communications Officer Zekmar. They form an almost complete sphere around the human system. A sphere? Kexton looked puzzled. That would require enormous resources to build and maintain. Yes, sir. The beacon network appears to cover millions of cubic light years. Whoever built this invested more resources than most civilizations possess. For the first time, Kexton felt a small doubt. Why would anyone spend so much effort to warn others about one primitive species? But he pushed the thought away. The ancients who built the beacons had probably exaggerated the threat. Fear often made primitive species seem more dangerous than they really were. Continue on course, he ordered. We will reach the edge of their system tomorrow. The Admiral went to his private quarters that evening. He read more reports about human history and culture. Something bothered him about their development pattern. Most species followed predictable paths as they advanced. Humans seemed different somehow. They had gone from basic flying machines to space travel in less than a century. That was unusually fast. They had also developed remarkably destructive weapons for their technology level. Some of their weapons could destroy entire cities, but what puzzled him most was their behavior in conflicts. Human military history showed they often won battles they should have lost. They used unexpected tactics and refused to surrender even when defeat seemed certain. Unpredictable warfare tactics. He repeated the beacon's warning to himself. Perhaps that meant they did not follow standard military doctrine. But no amount of unpredictability could overcome superior technology and numbers. The next morning brought them to the edge of Sol system. The outer planets came into view on their sensors. Gas giants with various moons, some showing signs of human activity, mining operations and small research stations, just as the intelligence reports had indicated. Sir, we have reached the target system, announced Navigator Krilvex. Shall we proceed to the inner planets? Admiral Kexton looked at the display showing the human system. It looked so ordinary. A simple yellow star with a few rocky planets and some gas giants. Nothing impressive about it at all. Begin our approach, he commanded, and prepare to broadcast surrender demands to the human homeworld. The Zephyrian fleet moved into Sol system, passing the orbit of the outermost planet. 200 warships against a species that had never left their own system. It should be over within hours. But as they passed the first human installations, Admiral Kexton noticed something strange. The humans were not fleeing. Their space stations went silent, but they remained in position. Their small ships took defensive formations rather than running away. It was almost as if they had been expecting this moment. The silence from the human installations felt different from normal fear responses. When the Zephyrians had conquered other species, there was always panic. Ships would flee in random directions. Communications would be filled with desperate calls for help. Leaders would try to negotiate or surrender immediately, but the humans did none of these things. Their communications simply stopped. Their ships moved into organized defensive positions. Their space stations powered down non-essential systems but maintained structural integrity and weapons. Sir, this behavior is unusual, observed Lieutenant Vashtal. Most species either flee or attempt immediate communication when they see our fleet. They are probably paralyzed with fear, Kexton replied, but his voice carried less certainty than before. Continue our advance toward the inner system. As they passed deeper into the Sol system, more human installations came into view. Mining operations on asteroids, research stations orbiting the outer gas giants, small manufacturing facilities in the asteroid belt. Each one went silent as the Zephyrian fleet approached, but none fled. Sir, we are detecting movement from the human vessels, reported Sensor Officer Dalgen. They are not fleeing. They appear to be repositioning for defensive action. Defensive action? Kexton laughed, but it sounded forced. What could The Zephyrian fleet crossed into the inner Sol system 3 days after passing the outer planets. Admiral Kexton watched the tactical displays with growing confusion. Every human installation they encountered followed the same pattern. Complete communication silence, defensive positioning, but no retreat. Sir, we are approaching what appears to be their main asteroid mining belt, reported Navigator Krillvex. Sensors show extensive human activity throughout the region. The asteroid belt stretched before them like a field of scattered rocks. Sensors detected dozens of human operations among the larger asteroids. Mining platforms, processing stations, and small habitats dotted the region. It should have been easy to sweep through and claim for Zephyrian use. How many human installations in the belt? Asked Kexthan. Approximately 47 major facilities, sir, plus numerous smaller operations. The humans appear to have been mining here for several decades. And their response to our approach? Sensor Officer Dalgan checked his displays. The same as before, sir. All facilities have gone silent but remain operational. No evacuation detected. Defensive postures maintained. Kexthan found this behavior increasingly strange. When the Zephyrians had conquered the villain system 2 years ago, the inhabitants had fled their asteroid mines immediately. Ships had scattered in panic. Mining equipment was abandoned. The conquest had been complete within hours, but humans were different. They watched the approaching fleet and prepared to fight rather than flee. It made no tactical sense from a primitive species. Sir, we are intercepting some human communications, announced Communications Officer Zekmar. They appear to be using complex encryption, but we can detect the signals. What are they saying? Unknown, sir. The encryption is more advanced than we expected from their technology level. The signals appear to be coordination messages between installations. Admiral Kexthan stood up from his command chair. More advanced encryption than expected? Intelligence reports had indicated humans used basic communication systems. Either the reports were wrong, or humans had developed faster than anyone realized. Can we break their encryption? Working on it, sir. But the algorithms are unusually sophisticated. It may take time. The fleet continued through the asteroid belt. As they passed each human installation, the pattern remained the same. Silence, defensive positions, no retreat. The humans seemed to be waiting for something. Sir, we are detecting unusual energy signatures from some of the mining platforms, reported Science Officer Mordek. The power levels are higher than normal for mining operations. How much higher? Significantly, sir. Some platforms are generating enough power to run a small city. That seems excessive for asteroid mining. Kexthan frowned. Why would mining operations need so much power? Unless they were not just mining operations. But intelligence reports showed no major military installations in the asteroid belt. Are there weapon signatures? Difficult to determine, sir. The energy patterns are unlike anything in our databases. The signatures do not match known weapon types. Unknown weapon types? That was impossible. The Zephyrian Empire had encountered dozens of species and cataloged their military technology. Every civilization used variations of the same basic weapons. Energy beams, projectile systems, explosive missiles. The physics of warfare was universal. Continue scanning, Kexthan ordered. I want to know what they are powering with all that energy. The fleet moved deeper into the asteroid belt. Human installations tracked their progress but made no aggressive moves. No weapons fired. No ships approached. The silence felt heavy and deliberate. Sir, we are receiving a transmission, announced Zekmar. It appears to be directed at our fleet. From the humans? Yes, sir. Single transmission unencrypted. Put it through. The main screen flickered and showed a human face. The alien appeared young by Zephyrian standards, with pale skin and dark hair. The human wore what looked like a military uniform, but the design was unfamiliar. Zephyrian fleet, the human said in accented but understandable galactic standard. You have entered the Sol system without authorization. This is your only warning. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. The bridge crew burst into laughter. A single human warning an entire battle fleet. The audacity was remarkable. Consequences? Kexthan stepped forward. You are a primitive species with basic technology. We are the Zephyrian Empire. You will surrender your system immediately or we will take it by force. The human's expression did not change. No fear, no anger, just calm determination. You have been warned. We have protocols for this situation. The transmission ended abruptly. The human face disappeared from the screen, leaving only empty space. Protocols? Laughed Weapons Officer Torgal. What protocols could they possibly have for a fleet of our size? But Admiral Kexthan was not laughing anymore. Something about the human's calm certainty bothered him. Most species showed fear when facing overwhelming force. This human had seemed almost prepared. Sir, we are detecting movement throughout the asteroid belt, reported Daljan urgently. Multiple human vessels are changing position. Attack formation? Unknown, sir. The movement patterns are unlike standard military doctrine. Ships are spreading out rather than concentrating for defense. Kexthon studied the tactical display. The human ships were indeed spreading throughout the asteroid belt in a pattern he did not recognize. Standard military tactics called for ships to group together for mutual support. But humans were doing the opposite. Perhaps they are trying to make themselves harder to target, suggested Lieutenant Vashital. Or they are preparing to surrender and want to avoid damage to their ships, added Navigator Krillvex. But somehow Kexthon doubted either explanation. The human's warning echoed in his mind. Protocols for this situation. What kind of protocols would a primitive species have for dealing with advanced invasion fleets? Sir, we are approaching the orbit of the fourth planet, reported Krillvex. Mars, according to human designation. Sensors show several human installations on the surface and in orbit. Mars appeared on the main screen. A red planet with polar ice caps and clear signs of human terraforming efforts. Orbital stations hung in space around the planet, larger and more sophisticated than the mining platforms in the asteroid belt. Those orbital installations, observed Science Officer Mordek. They are much larger than intelligence reports indicated. Kexthon examined the sensor data. The human stations around Mars were indeed bigger than expected, and they were positioned in a way that provided excellent coverage of the space around the planet. Defensive positions? He asked. Possibly, sir. But the arrangement is more sophisticated than we have seen from other primitive species. As the fleet approached Mars, more human vessels emerged from behind the planet and its moons. These ships were larger than the ones in the asteroid belt. Still smaller than Zephyrian vessels, but more numerous than intelligence had suggested. Sir, total count of human vessels in this area is now over 300, reported Daljan. Where did they all come from? 300 ships? Intelligence reports had indicated maybe 50 human vessels in the entire system. Either the reports were badly wrong or humans had been hiding most of their fleet. Hidden bases, concluded Mordek. They must have concealed facilities we did not detect. But our sensors should detect any major installations, protested Daljan. Our technology is far superior to theirs. Unless their stealth capabilities are better than we assumed, said Kexthon quietly. The possibility sent a chill through the bridge. If humans could hide large installations from Zephyrian sensors, what else might they be hiding? Sir, we are receiving another transmission, announced Zekmar. The screen activated again, showing a different human face. This one appeared older, with silver hair and worn features. The uniform was similar but carried more insignia. Zephyrian Admiral, the human said. I am Commander Sarah Chen of the Solar Defense Force. You ignored our first warning. You now have 60 seconds to begin withdrawal from our system, or we will implement defensive protocols. Defensive protocols? Kexthon stepped forward again. You have 300 ships. We have 200, each one superior to yours. You cannot threaten us. Commander Chen's expression remained calm. You misunderstand our capabilities. This is not about ship counts or individual vessel strength. You have entered our territory. We have been preparing for this scenario for a very long time. Preparing? You are a primitive species that has never faced advanced military technology. Admiral, Chen said quietly, you are about to discover that intelligence reports can be misleading. 59 seconds, the transmission ended. The bridge fell silent as the countdown began in everyone's mind. Sir, what are your orders? Asked Lieutenant Vashital. Kexthon looked at the tactical display. 200 Zephyrian warships against 300 smaller human vessels. The math favored his fleet by a large margin. Human confidence made no sense unless they know something we do not, he muttered. Sir? Battle stations, Kexthon ordered. All ships prepare for combat, but maintain defensive formation. I want to see what these humans think they can do against us. The Zephyrian fleet adjusted into combat formation as they continued toward Mars. Human ships spread out further, taking positions that seemed random but might have hidden purpose. And somewhere in the back of Admiral Kexthon's mind, the ancient warning beacons continued their message. Extreme to the 60 seconds passed in complete silence. Admiral Kexthon watched his chronometer count down while the Zephyrian fleet maintained its approach toward Mars. At exactly 60 seconds, everything changed. The first sign was not an attack. It was the asteroids themselves. "Sir, we are detecting massive energy spikes throughout the belt," reported Science Officer Mordek, his voice filled with confusion. "The asteroids are activating. Kexthon spun toward the display. "What do you mean activating?" The answer came in the form of light. Hundreds of asteroids throughout the belt suddenly blazed with energy. What had appeared to be simple mining operations revealed themselves as something entirely different. Massive weapons platforms disguised as rocks began to power up. "Those are not mining facilities," whispered Lieutenant Vashital. "They are military installations." The asteroids began to move. Thruster systems hidden within the rock surfaces fired, adjusting positions with precision. Each asteroid revealed itself as a mobile weapons platform, carefully positioned over decades to create the perfect ambush zone. "Impossible," breathed Weapons Officer Torgal. "No species has the technology to hollow out asteroids on this scale," but the evidence floated before them. The entire asteroid belt had been converted into a massive weapons array. Every rock that had seemed like natural mining territory was actually a disguised fortress. "Sir, energy signatures are unlike anything in our databases," reported Mordek. "These are not conventional weapons. The first shot came from an asteroid that had been directly in their path. Instead of an energy beam or projectile, space itself seemed to twist. The leading Zephyrian destroyer, the Kethvar, suddenly found itself compressed into a sphere no larger than a marble." "What happened to the Kethvar?" demanded Kexton. "Unknown, sir. The ship appears to have been crushed by gravity." "That is impossible. Gravity weapons require massive amounts of energy, and a second Zephyrian ship vanished entirely. Not destroyed, not damaged, simply gone as if it had never existed. The Moor, then, has disappeared from all sensors," reported Daljan. "No debris, no energy signature. It just stopped being there." "Quantum phase weapons," whispered Science Officer Mordek. "They are pushing ships out of normal spacetime." "That technology is theoretical," protested Kexthon. "No species has successfully—" A third ship exploded as its own ammunition detonated. But the human weapons had not touched it directly. Instead, electromagnetic pulses had somehow reprogrammed the ship's systems to turn its weapons inward. "They are using our own technology against us," announced Torgal. "Electromagnetic infiltration of our computer systems." Admiral Kexton stared at the tactical display as his fleet began to die around him. This was not conventional warfare. Humans were not fighting like any species he had encountered. They were using weapons that should not exist, tactics that defied military logic. "All ships, evasive maneuvers," he ordered. "Scatter formation and return fire." But the Zephyrian fleet found itself trapped in a carefully constructed maze. Every direction led to more disguised weapons platforms. The asteroids had been positioned to create overlapping fields of fire with no escape routes. "Sir, we cannot lock onto targets," reported Torgal. "Their stealth technology is interfering with our targeting systems. Use manual targeting." "Sir, the platforms keep moving. They are repositioning faster than we can track." The human asteroid platforms moved like a coordinated dance. Each one provided cover for others while maintaining perfect firing solutions on the Zephyrian fleet. It was military coordination on a scale that required decades of planning. "How long have they been preparing for this?" asked Lieutenant Vashital as another Zephyrian ship was crushed by an artificial gravity well. "Years," replied Kexthon grimly. "Maybe decades. More ships died around them. Each death came from a different type of weapon. Gravity manipulation that crushed hulls, quantum displacement that erased ships from reality, electromagnetic warfare that turned their own systems against them, nanoscale infiltrators that dismantled ships from the inside." "Sir, we are receiving a transmission from the human commander," announced Zekmar. Commander Chen appeared on screen again. Her calm expression had not changed, but now Kexton understood why. She had been expecting this exact scenario. "Admiral Kexathan," she said, "you now understand why we warned you to withdraw. What you see here is just the beginning. Every system in our territory has been prepared for defense." "This is impossible," Kexthan replied. "Your species has never left this system. How could you develop such advanced weapons?" "You assume we developed them ourselves," Chen said. "But humans are very good at learning from others. Every species that has entered our territory unwelcome has contributed to our education." "Other species?" The Zephyrians are not the first to ignore the warning beacons. Over the centuries, we have encountered Korthak raiders, Velan exploration fleets, Drakmor invasion forces, and dozens of others. Each one taught us something new about galactic warfare. Kexthan felt cold realization wash over him. You studied their technology. We studied, we learned, we improved. Human engineering may not be the most advanced in the galaxy, but human adaptability is unmatched. We take the best ideas from every species and make them better. Another Zephyrian ship died as nanoscale machines dismantled its hull at the molecular level. The technology was clearly based on villain designs, but improved beyond what the original creators had achieved. But you are still trapped in one system, protested Kexthan. You have never expanded or explored. We chose not to expand, Chen corrected. There is a difference. We could have left Sol centuries ago. But we learned something important from studying other species. Expansion leads to conflict. Conflict leads to discovery. Discovery leads to more conflict. So you stayed hidden. We stayed prepared. Every human installation in this system serves a dual purpose. Mining platforms are also weapons arrays. Research stations are also military command centers. Orbital habitats are also fortress bunkers. The tactical display showed the truth of her words. As the battle continued, more human installations revealed their hidden nature. What had appeared to be a primitive species with basic space infrastructure was actually an incredibly sophisticated military network. Sir, we have lost over 50 ships, reported Daljan. Remaining vessels are taking heavy damage. And we have not destroyed a single human platform, added Torgal bitterly. Because you cannot see them all, Commander Chen said, apparently monitoring their communications. What you observe as asteroid mining operations represent perhaps 20% of our actual defensive network. 20%? The rest are even better hidden. Would you like to see? Space around them suddenly filled with new contacts. Weapons platforms emerged from stealth, revealing themselves as they had been surrounding the Zephyrian fleet from the beginning. Hundreds of additional installations appeared on sensors, each one trained on the invading ships. We have been inside your trap since we entered the belt, Kexthan realized. Since you entered our system, Chen corrected. The outer planets were also monitoring your approach. Every movement your fleet has made has been tracked and predicted. The Admiral looked at his remaining ships. Less than half his fleet survived, and they were completely surrounded. But surrender was not in Zephyrian nature. All ships, full attack, he ordered. Target everything. Fire everything. The Zephyrian fleet unleashed every weapon they possessed. Energy beams, missile salvos, plasma cannons, particle accelerators. The combined firepower of over 100 advanced warships focused on the human positions. The attacks had no effect. Sir, their shields are absorbing our weapons fire, reported Torgal in disbelief. Not absorbing? Chen's voice came through the speakers. Redirecting. Another gift from a species that thought they could conquer us. Your own weapons are now powering our defensive systems. Impossible. Human engineering, Admiral. We take what others consider impossible and make it routine. The truth was becoming clear to Kexthan. Humans had not just prepared for invasion. They had prepared for invasion by any species, using any technology with any tactics. The Sol system was not a primitive backwater. It was the most sophisticated defensive network in the galaxy. Why do you not expand? He asked. With this technology, you could conquer anyone. Because conquest leads to more conquest. Victory leads to more war. We learned that from studying galactic history. Every expanding empire eventually faces something it cannot defeat. So you became that something. We became the reason for the warning beacons. The species that built them understood what we would become. They knew that some territories should not be entered. Around them, the last of the Zephyrian fleet began to fall. Ships crushed by gravity, erased by quantum weapons, torn apart by their own systems. 200 warships reduced to debris and memory. This is not warfare, Kexthan said quietly. This is extermination. No, Commander Chen replied. This is consequence. You were warned. You chose to ignore the warnings. Now you understand why they existed. The flagship shuddered as human weapons finally focused on it. Admiral Kexthan watched his remaining bridge crew work frantically at their stations, trying to find some way to escape. Admiral Kexthan was not dead. That realization came slowly as emergency lighting flickered on around him. The flagship's bridge was in ruins, but life support still functioned. Somehow, impossibly, a few dozen Zephyrian ships had survived the initial assault. "Damage report," he croaked, pulling himself up from the deck where the impact had thrown him. 43 ships remaining. "Sir," reported Lieutenant Vashital from her broken console, "all heavily damaged. Most systems are offline. How are we still alive?" Science Officer Mordek answered from across the ruined bridge. "The humans stopped firing, sir." "They could have finished us, but they chose not to." A new transmission activated the main screen. Commander Chen appeared again, but this time she was not alone. Other humans stood behind her, all wearing military uniforms. The command center they occupied looked far more advanced than anything in Zephyrian intelligence reports. "Admiral Kexthan," Chen said, "you survive because we allow it. Your remaining ships exist because we permit it. Do you understand the difference?" "Why?" Kexthan asked. "Why let any of us live?" "Because total extermination teaches no lessons. A few survivors can return to warn others, but first you need to understand what you truly face here." The display changed to show a tactical overview of the Sol system. As Kexthan watched, the true scope of human defenses revealed itself. What he had seen in the asteroid belt was indeed only 20% of their capabilities. Every planet in the system bristled with weapons. Moons had been hollowed out and converted into massive fortresses. The gas giants themselves had been turned into defensive platforms, their storms hiding enormous weapons arrays. "This is not possible," whispered Weapons Officer Torgal. "No single species could build defenses on this scale." "You are correct," Chen replied. "No single species could. But humans did not build this alone." The display showed historical data. Over the past few centuries, hundreds of different alien technologies had been integrated into the Sol system's defenses. Each invasion attempt had added to humanity's knowledge base. The Drakmor brought us gravity manipulation technology when they tried to claim Mars 80 years ago, Chen explained. The Korthak raiders introduced us to quantum phase shifting 60 years ago. The villain fleet provided nanoscale engineering 40 years ago. You absorbed their knowledge. We learned from their mistakes. Every species that has attempted to conquer us has contributed to our education. Their technology, their tactics, their weaknesses, all of it became part of our defensive network. Kexthan studied the data streams. Each alien technology had been not just copied but improved. Human engineering had taken the best aspects of dozens of civilizations and created something entirely new. "But how do you integrate so many different technologies?" asked Science Officer Mordek. "Most species cannot even adapt foreign systems to their own equipment." "Because most species think in terms of their own limitations," Chen answered. "Humans think in terms of possibilities. We do not ask if something can be done. We ask how it can be done better." The surviving Zephyrian ships found themselves herded toward the inner system by human vessels that appeared and disappeared like ghosts. The escort was not aggressive, but it was absolute. "No ship could deviate from the prescribed course. Where are you taking us?" asked Kexthan. "To see the heart of our defenses, to understand why the warning beacons exist." As they approached Earth's orbit, the scale of human preparations became even more apparent. The moon was not a natural satellite anymore. It had been converted into a massive weapons platform, its surface covered with installations that could destroy entire fleets. "The moon," breathed Navigator Krilvex. "They turned their own moon into a fortress." 60 years of construction, Chen confirmed. "After the villain fleet tried to use our own moon as a staging area against us. We decided that would never happen again." Earth itself appeared on the main screen as they drew closer. The blue planet looked peaceful from space, but sensors detected energy signatures that dwarfed anything the Zephyrians had ever encountered. "Your entire planet is a weapon," Kexthan realized. "Our entire system is a weapon," Chen corrected. "But yes, Earth is the command center. Every defensive installation from here to the outer planets is coordinated from this world. How many humans are involved in this defense network?" "All of them." The simple answer sent chills through the Zephyrian survivors. An entire species dedicated to warfare was terrifying enough, but an entire species dedicated to perfect defense was something else entirely. Every human child learns military engineering, alongside basic education, Chen continued. Every adult contributes to defensive preparations. Every elder shares knowledge gained from previous encounters with alien species. Your entire civilization exists for war. Our entire civilization exists to prevent war, Chen corrected. There is a difference. We do not seek conflict. We prepare for the conflict that others bring to us. The escort ships guided the Zephyrian survivors into Earth's orbit. As they approached, more human vessels joined the formation. These ships were larger than anything they had seen before, clearly designed for operations within the Sol system, rather than exploration beyond it. "Sir, sensors detect massive installations throughout Earth's orbital space," reported Daljan. "The planet is surrounded by defensive platforms." "Not just defensive," Chen said, monitoring their communications. "Manufacturing, research, command and control. Everything needed to maintain our defensive network is based here." "How long have you been preparing for invasion?" "Since we first detected signals from other species." "About 300 years. 3 centuries of preparation. No wonder the Sol system had become an impregnable fortress. Humans had devoted their entire civilization to creating the perfect defense." "But you could expand," insisted Kexthan. "With this technology, you could claim territory throughout the galaxy." "And then what?" "Expand further? Conquer more? Fight larger wars?" Chen shook her head. "We studied galactic history before making our choice. Every expanding species eventually faces something it cannot defeat. We decided to become that something. So you hide in one system, we perfect one system. There is a difference between hiding and being prepared." The Zephyrian ships were brought to a standard orbit around Earth. From this position, they could see the full scope of human civilization. Cities covered the continents, but so did military installations. Orbital elevators connected the surface to space-based manufacturing centers. Everything was designed with defense in mind. "Even your civilian infrastructure supports military purposes," observed Lieutenant Vashatal. "Because military and civilian purposes are the same for us," Chen replied. "Protecting our home. Everything else is secondary." "What happens to us now?" asked Kexthan. "That depends on you. We could destroy your remaining ships instantly. Your weapons cannot penetrate our defenses. Your shields cannot stop our attacks. You are completely at our mercy. But we prefer that you return to Zephyrian space with a message." "What message?" The main screen changed to show a view of the entire Sol system from above. Every planet, moon, asteroid, and space installation was marked on the display. Weapons ranges overlapped in complex patterns that covered every possible approach route. "Tell your people what you have seen here," Chen said. "Tell them why the warning beacons exist. Tell them that some territories should not be entered. And if other Zephyrian fleets come anyway, then they will join the debris field that surrounds our system. Their technology will be studied and integrated into our defenses. Their tactics will be analyzed and countered. And the Sol system will become even more dangerous for the next species that ignores the warnings." Kexthan looked around his damaged bridge at the surviving crew members. 43 ships from a fleet of 200, the survivors of an encounter with humanity. "You want us to spread fear of your species, we want you to spread understanding. Fear fades. Knowledge endures. We want other species to understand that expansion has limits." "And if they do not listen?" Commander Chen's expression remained calm, but something cold flickered in her eyes. "Then they will learn the same lesson you have learned today. The hard way." The escort ships began moving the Zephyrian survivors toward the edge of the system. As they traveled, more human installations revealed themselves. Hidden bases, camouflaged weapons platforms, stealth ships that appeared just long enough to be counted before vanishing again. "Sir, the scope of their defenses is beyond anything we imagined," whispered Science Officer Mordick. "They have turned an entire star system into the most sophisticated military network in the galaxy. And they did it while pretending to be a primitive species," added Weapons Officer Torgal. Bitterly, Admiral Kexthan watched the Earth shrink behind them. The blue planet looked so peaceful, so harmless, but appearances were clearly deceiving when it came to humanity. "Sir, we are approaching the system's edge," reported Navigator Krillvex. "The escort ships are maintaining distance but not interfering with our departure. Course for Zephyrian space. Set and ready, sir." Kexthan hesitated for a moment. Once they left the Sol system, they would have to explain what had happened here. How a primitive species had destroyed most of their fleet. How humans had prepared for centuries to defend against invasion. How the warning beacons had been telling the truth all along. "Engage," he ordered finally. The surviving Zephyrian ships jumped to hyperspace, leaving the Sol system behind. But the memory of 6 months had passed since the Zephyrian survivors returned to their home space. Admiral Kexthan stood before the High Council of the Zephyrian Empire, delivering his final report on the Sol system encounter. The great chamber fell silent as he finished describing humanity's defenses. "You expect us to believe," said Supreme Chancellor Vexitar slowly, "that a primitive species destroyed most of our finest fleet?" "I expect you to believe the evidence," Kexathon replied. 43 ships survived out of 200. The humans could have destroyed us all, but chose to let some live to bring back this warning. The same warning those ancient beacons have been broadcasting for centuries. The beacons were telling the truth. We chose not to listen. The council chamber erupted in discussion. Some members argued for a larger invasion force. Others demanded that the Sol system be avoided entirely. A few suggested using the Zephyrian Empire's ultimate weapon, a planet killer that could destroy entire worlds. "Silence," commanded Chancellor Vextar. "Admiral, in your professional opinion, could a larger fleet succeed where yours failed?" Kexthan had spent months considering that question. "No, Chancellor. The humans did not use their full capabilities against us. What we encountered was likely a small fraction of their total defenses." "Then what do you recommend?" "Exactly what the beacons recommend. Stay away from human territory. Mark the Sol system as forbidden space and enforce that prohibition absolutely." "You would have us flee from a single star system?" "I would have us learn from our mistakes before they destroy our entire empire." The argument continued for hours. Finally, Chancellor Vextar called for a vote. The decision was close, but ultimately the council chose caution. The Sol system would be marked as restricted territory. No Zephyrian ship would be permitted to approach within 50 light years. But the council's decision came too late. Even as they debated, other species were making their own plans for the Sol system. The Korthak Confederacy had heard rumors of advanced technology hidden in human space. The Villain Republic wanted to investigate reports of quantum phase weapons. The Drakmor Empire sought to claim the system's resources for themselves. None of them believed the warnings any more than the Zephyrians had. Commander Sarah Chen stood in the Solar Defense Force Command Center, watching long-range sensors track multiple fleets converging on their system. The display showed Korthak raiders approaching from one direction, villain exploration ships from another, and a massive Drakmor invasion fleet from a third. 3 different species, all ignoring the beacons, reported Colonel Martinez from the tactical station. The Korthak fleet has 60 ships. The villain group has 40. The Drakmor invasion force numbers over 300 vessels. Total of 400 ships from 3 different empires, Chen observed. Have they detected each other? Negative. Each fleet appears to believe they are the only ones approaching human space. Chen smiled grimly. 3 species, all seeking to claim the same prize, all unaware of the others. It was a scenario that offered interesting tactical possibilities. "What are your orders, Commander?" asked Colonel Martinez. "The same orders we always follow. Defend our home. But this time we have an opportunity to teach a more comprehensive lesson." The 3 alien fleets entered the Sol system within hours of each other. The Korthak raiders arrived first, expecting to find easy prey. Instead, they found the villain exploration ships already in the outer system, apparently conducting scans of human installations. "Unknown vessels," the Korthak leader broadcast. "You are in territory claimed by the Korthak Confederacy. Withdraw immediately." "This system has been claimed by the Villain Republic for scientific study," came the reply. "You are the ones who must withdraw." The 2 fleets faced off near Neptune's orbit, each demanding the other leave. Neither noticed the massive Drakmor invasion force approaching from a different vector until it was too late to avoid contact. "All vessels," came a third transmission. "You are in space now belonging to the Drakmor Empire. Submit to Imperial authority or be destroyed." 3 fleets, 400 ships, all converging on the Sol system at the same time. Each empire believed they were claiming territory from primitive humans. None expected to face competition from other galactic powers. The first battle began before any of them encountered human defenses. Chen watched the tactical display as the 3 alien fleets engaged each other in a chaotic melee. Korthak raiders used hit-and-run tactics against villain ships, while Drakmor forces attempted to overwhelm both groups with superior numbers. "Should we intervene?" asked Colonel Martinez. "Not yet. Let them weaken each other first. Then we can deal with whoever survives." The alien battle raged for 6 hours. Ships exploded. Weapons fire lit up space, and all 3 fleets took heavy casualties. When the fighting finally stopped, less than 200 vessels remained operational. "Now?" asked Martinez. "Now we send a message. The battered alien survivors found themselves suddenly surrounded by human ships that seemed to appear from empty space. Cloaked vessels decloaked in perfect formation around the three fleets, revealing the humans had been watching the entire battle. "Attention, alien vessels," Chen broadcast to all three groups. "You have entered the Sol system without authorization. You have been warned by automated beacons to maintain safe distance. You chose to ignore those warnings." "Human vessels," replied the Korthak commander. "We claim salvage rights on this battlefield." "This system belongs to the Villain Republic," insisted the Villain. "Leader, both of you will submit to Drakmor authority," demanded the Drakmor admiral. "None of you understand," Chen said quietly. "This system belongs to humanity. You are all trespassers here." The human fleet that surrounded the aliens was larger than any of the individual invasion forces, but more importantly, it was clearly more advanced. The alien ships showed battle damage from fighting each other. The human vessels showed no damage at all. "Impossible," muttered the Drakmor admiral. "No single species could field a fleet this size." "You are about to learn what is possible," Chen replied. The demonstration that followed was even more devastating than the one that had destroyed the Zephyrian fleet. Gravity weapons crushed ships into singularities. Quantum phase devices erased vessels from existence. Electromagnetic warfare turned the aliens' own systems against them, but this time the humans revealed additional capabilities. Weapons that could target specific ship systems without destroying the whole vessel. Technology that could disable entire fleets without killing their crews. Precision tools that allowed for capture rather than destruction. "You want prisoners?" asked Colonel Martinez as human boarding parties moved toward disabled alien ships. "We want teachers," Chen corrected. "Each of these species has developed different technologies, different tactics, different approaches to warfare. More lessons for our own defenses?" "Exactly. The Korthak stealth systems are more advanced than ours. The Villain quantum computers are faster than our models. The Drakmor armor plating uses materials we have not encountered before." Over the following days, human technical teams studied the captured alien vessels. Each ship was thoroughly examined, its technology cataloged and analyzed. The surviving alien crews were questioned about their species' capabilities and weaknesses. "What will happen to us?" asked the Korthak commander during his interrogation. "The same thing that happened to the Zephyrians," Chen replied. "You will be allowed to return home with a message for your people." "What message?" "That the warnings about human territory are real. That some places in the galaxy should not be entered. That expansion has limits." One by one, the surviving alien crews were returned to their disabled ships. Human engineers provided just enough repairs to allow the vessels to reach home. No weapon systems were restored. No military technology remained functional. But life support and basic propulsion were made operational. "Go home," Chen told each group's leader. "Tell your people what you found here. Tell them why the ancient beacons exist. Tell them that humanity defends this system absolutely." The battered remnants of 3 invasion fleets limped away from the Sol system. Behind them, human salvage teams began collecting the wreckage from the battle. Destroyed alien vessels would be studied. Their technology would be integrated into humanity's growing knowledge base. Months later, reports began reaching the major galactic powers. The Korthak Confederacy declared the Sol system off-limits to all ships. The Villain Republic marked human space as a forbidden research zone. The Drakmor Empire issued orders that no Imperial vessel should approach within 100 light-years of Earth. Admiral Kex then received the reports at his new assignment overseeing frontier defenses for the Zephyrian Empire. 3 more species had learned the same lesson his fleet had learned. 3 more empires now understood why the warning beacons existed, but he knew it would not end there. The galaxy was large and many species had not yet encountered humanity. Some would eventually ignore the warnings just as the Zephyrians had. Some would test human defenses, seeking to claim the Sol system for themselves. And each time they would discover what he had discovered.